Welcome back to This Mobile Life. If you're new here, my name is Dustin, and today we're going to talk about the top 5 tips to get the most for your RV trade. Tip number 1, research. Before you go to the dealer and start even looking at a new RV or talking about trading your RV in, you really want to have a decent idea of what your RV is probably worth today. You can go to sites like rvtrader.com and see what other people, individuals, or dealerships are selling your RV for, but a better way is to go to the nada.com, which is basically a blue book for RVs and motorcycles and boats and things like that. And on that site, you can put in the make, the mileage, the year, all the information about the RV, all the extras you got when you purchased it, to get a pretty decent idea of kind of where you would be starting in the negotiation process. Just to be aware, there's usually 3 values that they're going to give you. The first one is the list value, what it's selling for brand new, or what it did sell for brand new. You're going to get the average retail, and you're going to get the low retail. The low retail is kind of considered the wholesale cost, and that's what most dealers are going to base their offer off of. And typically they're going to give you or offer you about 80% of that low retail number. One other thing to remember is upgrades don't count a ton during the trade-in process. So if you've done a bunch of upgrades, you've put lithium batteries in, you've added solar panels, you've done different things like that, just be aware that the money you put into that probably is not going to be represented in a trade-in offer that a dealer is going to give you. If you can take some of those upgrades out and move them into your next RV, it's probably going to be better for you in the long run. Tip number 2, know what you want before you start trying to negotiate on a new RV or really even getting a trade value on your existing RV. What we found in our experience is it's not so much, it's almost impossible to get a trade-in value before you say, I want to negotiate on this RV purchase over here. The reason why is it's not really about how much they're going to pay you for your RV or how much they're going to sell you the new RV for. It's about for the dealer, it's about the package deal. How much are they going to make on this transaction? Some RVs, they might have a lot of margin, wiggle room on. Some RVs, they don't. Sometimes it depends on how much they paid the last person when they bought the used one that you're looking at now buying from them. It's really about the package deal. And this is so much the case that our last transaction that we did, we actually got a trade-in value sight unseen on our RV because we said, we want that RV and this is the one we want, and let's start talking numbers. And at the end of the day, we actually got more money for our RV than we would have gotten from any other dealer we talked to in the past when we were looking at different RVs, because that particular RV had a little bit more wiggle room in it and a little bit more margin for them to play with. Tip number 3, shop around. So you got your heart set on a particular make, a particular model. Now is not the time to just go to the dealer right down the street from your house. Might be convenient, they might have it in stock, but they may or may not give you the best overall deal. Again, it's all about the package deal. How much did that dealer pay for that RV? How much do they think they can sell your RV for? What's the demand in the local market for your particular type of RV? I'd recommend expanding your search as far as you can. Nationwide search, looking for dealers that have your RV, get them on the phone. Again, once you have a model picked out, they're probably going to be able to give you a pretty close estimate on your trade-in, even without seeing your RV. So for us, this meant a difference of about $37,000 from the lowest trade-in offers we got from some dealers to the one that we actually ended up selling our RV at. And again, it was because of the package deal. It was how much they bought our RV for versus how much they sold us the RV for, and how much they bought that one from the previous person. So it really, you need to look around and contact multiple dealers, find out what they have for inventory, tell them this is the model I want, this is what I have today, and start working through the transaction. Of course, everything may change when they see your RV, but if your RV is in decent condition, most of the time they're going to go off that NADA value that we talked about earlier, within a little bit up or down. Tip number 4, pre-negotiate everything else before you start talking final trade-in prices and final what they're going to sell you the RV for. Perfect case, tires. Okay, if you have any RV, it has tires, and if it's used, they might be worn out. Both the RVs that we purchased were used, and they both needed new tires. So if I would have negotiated the transaction first for the trade-in and for what I'm going to pay for the new one, and left out the tire discussion till later, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I need new tires too, and the dealer is potentially going to say, oh, no problem, we can take care of that for you. It's just another $2,000 or $3,000. In our last RV, they were the huge semi tires. They were massive and they're super expensive, and to purchase and super expensive to install. And they can say, oh yeah, we can take care of that, but it's going to be another $3,000. And we can just finance it. It's no big deal. It'll only cost you $15 more a month or whatever, right? But if you negotiate that ahead of time as part of the transaction, once you get to the price, you can start talking about price and negotiating just on price, and that stuff's already taken care of. You don't have to try to add that on after the fact. Are there any repairs that need to be made? If you're buying a used RV, a lot of times they're going to be sold somewhat as is. So you want to really also make sure you go through the RV before you start sitting down and talking numbers and contracts, and make sure most of the stuff works. Like you can check pretty easily if most of the things work when you're at the RV dealership. And last but not least, tip number 5, and this is probably one of the most important ones. You need to be willing to walk away from the transaction. Sometimes this is a negotiation tactic and it actually works. And sometimes it's just not the right fit for you. If the trade-in value is way too low, if the new purchase price is way too high, if they want to charge a ton of extra for all these upgrades that you don't want to pay for, but they're already built into the RV, walk away. You can find, these RVs are always coming up for sale. You know, wait a couple weeks, wait a month, wait 6 months if you have to get the right deal for you and to get the right RV for you. Also, being willing to walk away lets the dealer know that, hey, I like this RV, it's the right fit for me, but I'm not going to just do a bad transaction. I'm not going to make a purchase that's going to, you know, cost me too much money or just isn't going to pay me the value that I deserve for my existing RV because it's in such great condition and this is what they're selling for everywhere else, etc. Sometimes it works as a negotiation tactic, as I mentioned before as well. One of our last vehicle purchases, we walked into the dealer and had this was a car, but it works the same for RVs. Walked into the dealer and had it all picked out. We're talking about numbers, and the numbers were pretty high. And I'm like, you know what? I need to go take a phone call. I'll be right back. Walked out to the car. Actually had to take a phone call. Took the phone call, and something came up, and I had to leave. So I left without telling the dealer what was going on. And about a half an hour later, they called me up. They're like, whoa, 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 what happened? I thought we had this thing all sorted out. I thought you were ready to go. And I was like, you know what? I was, but I had to take care of something. And, you know, I've been thinking about it more, and it's just not the right price. It's just too high, et cetera, et cetera. Magically, long story short, the price came way down, and I ended up saving a ton of money on the Jeep that we actually have. So it works for RVs as well, and it's just sales 101. Be willing to walk away if it's either one as a negotiation tactic, or two, if it's just not right to fit for. If it's not the right fit for you, don't put yourself in a bad position. Don't buy an RV just because you think you're not going to be able to find another one that has the same stuff somewhere else. So, and again, shop around like we talked about earlier, because you'll be surprised the difference in pricing that they sell these things for, as well as what they're willing to give you for a trade. Anyways, if you found this content helpful, please click the like button down below. It helps YouTube let other people know who are looking for similar questions to be answered. And if you want to keep up with our travels or our adventures or more RV industry information or tips and tricks, click the subscribe button, and we'll see you out there.